Queen Nari led Tejo through the halls of the Eternal Star. They walked in silence, surrounded by guards who watched him with suspicious eyes. The queen did not look back, did not slow down. She moved like a river that expected everything to flow around her. They entered a private chamber. It was smaller than Tejo expected, decorated simply with dark walls and silver furniture. A large window showed the stars outside, millions of lights scattered across the endless black. The queen dismissed her guards with a wave of her hand. They hesitated, clearly unhappy about leaving their ruler alone with a human. But no one questioned Queen Nari. They left without a word. Now it was just the two of them. Queen Nari walked to the window and stared out at the stars. Her reflection looked back at her, cold and distant. "Do you know why I really came here, human?" Tejo stood near the door, keeping his distance. "To check on your daughter. That is part of it. But not all." She turned to face him. "I came because of the reports. Dozens of witnesses, all saying the same thing. A human killed 7 Veloth warriors. A human protected my daughter when everyone else failed. A human did what my entire guard could not do." She walked toward him slowly. There was no anger in her face now, only curiosity. "I have ruled this empire for 200 years. I have seen warriors, champions, legends. I have watched the greatest fighters in the galaxy test themselves in battle." She stopped in front of him. "But I have never seen anything like what they described. A man who should have been dead, standing over my daughter, refusing to fall." Tejo did not know what to say, so he said nothing. "Tell me about yourself," the queen commanded. "Where did you come from? How did you become what you are?" He thought for a moment. It had been a long time since anyone asked him about his past. "I was a soldier on Earth," he said. "I fought in the last war before we made contact with the galaxy. It was a terrible war. Many people died. My friends, my family, everyone I cared about. And yet you survived." "Yes, I do not know why. I should have died 100 times. But every time, something kept me going. Maybe it was luck. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe I was just too angry to die." The queen smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it changed her entire face. "Stubbornness," she said. "Yes, I see that in you. It is a quality I understand well." She walked to a chair and sat down. For the first time, she looked almost normal. Not a queen, not a ruler, but just a woman tired from a long journey. "Sit," she said. Tejo sat in the chair across from her. "I am going to tell you something," Queen Nari said. "Something I have never told anyone outside my family. Do you want to know why Yura is the way she is? Why she is gentle when my people value strength?" He nodded. "It is because of me." Her voice became softer. Her violet eyes grew distant, looking at memories from long ago. "When I was young, I was just like her. I hated violence. I hated the blood and the killing and the endless wars. I wanted to be kind. I wanted to be gentle." She paused, but the world did not allow it. "My father was killed by assassins. My mother died in battle. I was forced to become queen at 30 years old, barely an adult by Veloth standards. I am sorry," Tejo said quietly. "Do not be sorry. It made me who I am. I learned to be hard because the world was harder. I learned to be cruel because mercy got people killed. I became the Silver Storm because that was what my people needed." She looked at him. "But I lost something along the way. I lost the part of me that could love, that could feel, that could be kind." She stood up and walked to the window again. "When Yura was born, I saw myself in her. The person I used to be. The person I could have been if the world had been different." Her voice cracked, just slightly. "I tried to protect that. I tried to let her stay gentle. But my people saw it as weakness. They hate her for what I used to be." Taeho understood now. The queen was not angry at Yura. She was afraid for her. She was afraid that the world would break her daughter the same way it had broken her. Your daughter is stronger than you think, he said. She saved my life. She almost died doing it. That is not weakness. That is the kind of strength that cannot be taught. Queen Nari turned to look at him. There were tears in her eyes. It was the most human thing Taeho had ever seen from a Velith. I know, she whispered. I saw the reports. My gentle daughter, giving her life energy to save a human. It should have made me angry. But instead, I felt proud. For the first time in many years, I felt proud of her. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. When she spoke again, her voice was steady. You protected her when no one else would. You stood by her side when everyone else ran. You gave her something I could never give her. Courage. Hope. She walked toward him and stopped just a few feet away. For that, I owe you a debt that can never be repaid. Taeho shook his head. You owe me nothing, Your Majesty. I did what any person should do. No, you did what no one else was willing to do. That is why you are special. That is why my daughter trusts you. That is why I am going to do something that has never been done before. She reached out and took his hand. Her grip was strong, her skin cool against his. Kang Taeho, human, soldier, guardian of my daughter. I claim you. Taeho blinked. What? In Velith tradition, a queen may claim anything she desires as her own. Property, land, ships, people. Once something is claimed by the queen, no one in the galaxy may touch it. No one may harm it. No one may take it away. She squeezed his hand. I claim you. From this moment forward, you are under my protection. You belong to the throne. Any who try to harm you will face the full might of the Velith Empire. Taeho did not know what to say. He had come here expecting to die. Instead, the most powerful woman in the galaxy was claiming him as her own. Why? He asked. Queen Nari smiled. It was a real smile this time, warm and genuine. Because you are the only person who has ever made my daughter smile. Because you showed her that she is not worthless. Because you gave her hope. She released his hand. And because I want her to be happy. Even if it means claiming a stubborn human who does not know when to die. They stood in silence for a moment. Outside, the stars continued to shine, eternal and unchanging. There is one more thing, the queen said. Yura cares for you. I can see it in her eyes. I do not know what that will become. Perhaps nothing. Perhaps something more. She looked at him seriously. But whatever happens, you will treat her with respect. You will protect her. You will never betray her trust. Taeho met her eyes. I would rather die than betray her. Good answer. The queen walked to the door. Come, we have an announcement to make. The great hall had been repaired. The blood was cleaned, the bodies removed, the damage fixed. It looked almost the same as before the attack. But something was different now. The air was charged with tension and anticipation. Representatives from 100 worlds filled the hall. News crews broadcast to billions of viewers across the galaxy. Everyone had heard the stories. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Queen Nari walked to the center of the hall. Beside her walked Taeho. Behind them came Princess Yura, finally strong enough to stand. The queen raised her hand, and the room fell silent. People of the galaxy, she said. Her voice carried to every corner of the hall. You have heard what happened here. Assassins tried to kill my daughter. They failed because of this man. She gestured to Taeho. Kang Taeho. A human, a species many of you consider weak and worthless. But this man did what no one else could do. He faced death and refused to fall. He protected my daughter with nothing but his own body and will. The crowd murmured. Some faces showed admiration. Others showed confusion. A few showed fear. Today I make a declaration. This human belongs to the Velith throne. He's mine to protect. Any who try to harm him will answer to me. Any who question his worth will question the worth of the Velith Empire itself. She turned to face Taeho directly. You came here as a servant. You leave here as a legend. The galaxy will remember your name, Kang Taeho. And so will I. Princess Yura stepped forward. She took Taeho's hand in front of everyone, in front of the cameras, in front of the entire galaxy. Thank you, she whispered. For everything? He looked at her violet eyes, at her gentle smile, at the hope that burned in her like a quiet flame. I made a promise, he said, to protect you, to stay by your side. He squeezed her hand. I keep my promises. The crowd erupted in noise. Some cheered. Some protested. Some simply watched in stunned silence. But Taeho did not hear any of it. He only saw Yura. He only felt her hand in his. For the first time in many years, he did not feel alone. Queen Nari watched them with a small smile on her face. Her daughter had found someone worth fighting for. And in that human, she saw something rare. Something precious. Hope. The galaxy was changing. Humans were no longer just insects to be ignored. They were something more. Something dangerous. Something wonderful. And it all started with one man who refused to fall. The stars continued to shine. The future was uncertain. But for now, at this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. A human protected a princess, and a queen claimed him as her own. The end. The ship was called the Eternal Star. It was the largest diplomatic vessel in the entire galaxy. Inside its walls, hundreds of alien species walked, talked, and made deals that decided the fate of planets. Kang Taeho had been on this ship for 3 years now. He was a human, one of the few who served in the Galactic Guard. Taeho stood exactly 6 feet tall. His body was covered in old scars from battles he never talked about. His eyes were dark and calm, like deep water that hid many secrets. He was 32 years old, but he looked older. War did that to people. Humans were still new to the galaxy. Earth had only made contact with alien life 20 years ago. Most species looked down on humans. They called them weak, short-lived, and primitive. But Taeho had proven himself in combat many times. That was why he was here. Today, he received new orders. He stood in the office of Commander Vex, a tall blue-skinned alien with 4 arms. Vex looked at him with yellow eyes that showed no emotion. You have a new assignment, Vex said. His voice was deep and cold. You will guard Princess Yura of the Velith Empire. Taeho kept his face blank. He knew about the Velith. They were one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. Their skin was pale silver, and their eyes glowed like soft moonlight. They were beautiful, but also very dangerous. A single Velith warrior could kill 20 human soldiers without breaking a sweat. Why me? Taeho asked. It was a fair question. The Velith had their own guards. They did not need a human. Vex leaned back in his chair. The princess requested someone different. She does not want her own kind watching her. You were chosen because you are quiet. You follow orders, and you will not cause political problems. Taeho understood. He was expendable. If something went wrong, no one would care about a dead human. He nodded once. I accept. He found the princess in her quarters on the upper deck. The room was large and filled with soft light. Everything was white and silver, like the inside of a pearl. Taeho stepped inside and saw her for the first time. Princess Yura sat by the window, looking out at the stars. She was small for a Velith, barely 5 feet tall. Her silver hair fell past her shoulders like a waterfall of moonlight. Her skin was so pale it almost glowed. When she turned to look at him, her eyes were a soft shade of violet. She was young, maybe 19 or 20 in human years. But there was something in her eyes that made her look much older. Sadness. Deep, heavy sadness that pressed down on her like a stone. "You are the human," she said. Her voice was soft, like wind through leaves. Double quotes. "Yes, Your Highness. I am Kang Taeho. I will be your guard." She studied him for a long moment. Most Velith looked at humans with disgust or amusement. But Yura looked at him with something different. Curiosity, maybe even hope. "They sent you because they think I am weak," she said. It was not a question. Taeho did not lie. Probably. A small smile touched her lips. It was the first sign of life he had seen in her face. "I like that you are honest. The others always lie to me. They tell me I am strong and wise, that I know what they really think." She stood up and walked toward him. Up close, he could see that she was even smaller than he thought. The top of her head barely reached his chin. She looked up at him with those violet eyes. "Do you know why I asked for a human guard?" "No, Your Highness." "Because humans die easily," she said. "And I did not want to be responsible for another Velith death." Taeho understood then. She was not just sad. She was broken. Something had happened to her, something terrible, and she carried that weight every day. "I will try not to die easily," he said. She laughed. It was a small, surprised sound, like she had forgotten how to laugh and just remembered. "You are strange," she said. "I think I like you." Over the next few weeks, Taeho learned more about the princess. She was the only daughter of Queen Nari, the ruler of the Velith Empire. The Velith were a warrior race. They valued strength above all else. But Yura was not strong. She was gentle and kind. She hated violence and blood. This made her an outcast among her own people. The other Velith whispered about her. They called her the weak princess. They said she was a disgrace to the royal blood. Taeho watched her suffer in silence. She never complained. She never cried. But he could see the pain in her eyes every time someone looked at her with contempt. One night, he found her crying by the window. She tried to hide it when she saw him, but it was too late. "Your Highness," he said carefully, "is there anything I can do?" She shook her head. "No, you cannot change who I am, and my people will never accept me." Taeho was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. "Where I come from, there is an old saying. The gentlest water can carve through the hardest stone. It just takes time." She looked at him with wet eyes. "Do you believe that?" "I believe that strength comes in many forms. And sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do is stay kind in a cruel world." She stared at him like he had just shown her a new star. No one had ever said such words to her before. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you, Taeho." From that night on, something changed between them. She began to trust him. She would talk to him about her fears, her dreams, her hopes. And he would listen, always listen, without judgment. The other guards laughed at him. A human protecting a Velith princess? It was a joke to them. But Taeho did not care what they thought. He had made a silent promise to himself. He would protect her. Not because it was his job, but because she deserved to be protected. She deserved to feel safe, at least once in her life. The Grand Summit was coming. Leaders from 100 worlds would gather on the Eternal Star to discuss peace and trade. It was the most important event of the decade. And somewhere in the shadows, enemies were already watching, planning. Tae-Ho could feel it in his bones. Something bad was coming. He just did not know how bad it would be. The Great Hall had become a scene of horror. Bodies lay scattered across the marble floor. The air smelled of blood and smoke. Emergency alarms screamed in the distance, but inside the hall, there was only silence. Everyone was staring at the same thing. A human lay in a pool of his own blood. His chest rose and fell weakly, each breath a struggle. His uniform was torn and soaked red. The wounds on his body were too many to count, and standing around him were the bodies of 7 Velith assassins. 7 of the most deadly warriors in the galaxy, killed by a single human dot. No one could believe it. Princess Yura fell to her knees beside Teho. Her beautiful silver dress was now stained with his blood. She pressed her hands against the wound in his chest, trying to stop the bleeding, but it just poured through her fingers. "Help him!" she screamed. "Someone help him!" The crowd just stared. Some of them were too shocked to move. Others simply did not care. He was just a human, after all. What did his life matter? But Yura cared. "Please," she sobbed. "Please do not leave me. You promised. You promised you would protect me." Teho's eyes fluttered open. They were dim like a candle about to go out. But when he saw her face, something changed. A small spark of life returned. "Princess," he whispered. His voice was so weak she could barely hear it. "Are you safe?" Tears ran down her face. "Yes, because of you. You saved me." He smiled. It was the same calm, gentle smile he always gave her. Even now, even as he lay dying, he was not afraid. "Good," he said. "Then I did my job." His eyes began to close. "No." Yura grabbed his face with both hands. "Do not close your eyes. Stay with me. Please, Teho, stay with me." But he could not hear her anymore. The darkness was pulling him down, deeper and deeper into a cold, silent place. A Velith medical officer finally pushed through the crowd. He was an older man with gray in his silver hair. He knelt beside Teho and checked his wounds. His face turned pale. "The blade pierced his lung," he said. "He has lost too much blood. There is nothing I can do." "You are lying." Yura screamed. "You have to save him. Use your technology. Use anything." The medical officer shook his head. "Our medical technology is designed for Velith bodies, not human bodies. I do not know how to treat him. I am sorry, Your Highness. He will be dead within the hour." Yura felt something break inside her. She had lost so much in her life. Her father, her brothers, her friends. Everyone she loved had been taken from her. And now, the one person who had shown her kindness, the one person who had made her feel safe, was being taken to Dodd. She would not let it happen. "Then I will save him myself," she said. The medical officer frowned. "Your Highness, that is impossible. You do not have the knowledge or the training." "I do not need knowledge," Yura said. "I need will." She placed both hands on Teho's chest and closed her eyes. The Velith had many abilities that other species did not understand. One of them was the power to share life energy. It was an old technique, forbidden in modern times, because it was too dangerous. The person who gave their energy could die if they gave too much. Yura did not care. She reached deep inside herself and found the core of her life force. It burned like a small star in the center of her being. Slowly, carefully, she began to push that energy into Teho's body. Pain hit her like a hammer. Her body screamed at her to stop. But she did not stop. She pushed harder, giving more of herself, pouring her own life into him. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Yura's silver hair began to glow with soft light. Her skin became almost transparent, showing the veins beneath. She was burning herself from the inside out. "Your Highness, stop!" The medical officer shouted. "You will kill yourself." She did not stop. Inside Teho's body, something was happening. The energy flowed through his blood, healing the torn flesh, closing the wounds, pushing back the darkness. His heart, which had almost stopped, began to beat stronger. 1 minute passed. Then 2, then 5. Yura's body was shaking. Her nose was bleeding. Her eyes had rolled back in her head. She was giving too much. She was dying, but she did not stop. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Taeho's eyes opened. He took a deep breath. A real breath, not the weak gasps from before. Color returned to his face. His wounds, while still serious, had stopped bleeding. He was alive. Yura collapsed beside him, unconscious. Her face was white as snow. Her breathing was shallow and weak. The medical officer rushed to her side. She gave too much, he said. She nearly killed herself to save him. The crowd erupted in whispers. A princess of the Velith Empire had nearly sacrificed her own life to save a human. It was unthinkable. It was impossible. Yet they had all seen it with their own eyes. Taeho sat up slowly. His body was still in pain, but the worst of it had passed. He looked down at Yura and saw how pale she was. How weak she looked. What did she do? He asked. The medical officer looked at him with new eyes. She gave you her life energy. It is a forbidden technique. Most people who attempt it die. But she did not stop. Even when her body was failing, she did not stop. Taeho felt something twist in his chest. It was not pain. It was something else. Something deeper. He reached down and gently touched Yura's face. Why? He whispered. Why would you do this for me? She could not answer. She was still unconscious. But somewhere, deep in her dreams, she smiled. The security forces finally arrived. They surrounded the hall, checking for more threats. The two assassins who had escaped were tracked down and captured. The crisis was over, but the story was just beginning. News spread quickly. Within hours, every corner of the galaxy knew what had happened. A human bodyguard had single-handedly killed 7 Velith assassins. He had protected a princess with nothing but his own body. And then, the princess had nearly died to save him in return. People did not know what to think. Humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to be primitive and fragile. But this human had done something that even the strongest Velith warriors could not do. He had faced death and refused to fall. Some people were inspired. They saw Taeho as proof that humans were more than anyone believed. Others were afraid. If one human could do this, what could an army of humans do? But most people were simply confused. The relationship between the princess and her guard was something they had never seen before. It was not master and servant. It was not even friends. It was something deeper, something that did not have a name. Taeho stayed by Yura's side as she recovered. He sat in a chair next to her bed, watching her sleep. His own wounds were healing, thanks to her gift. 3 days later, she finally woke up. Her violet eyes opened slowly. For a moment, she did not know where she was. Then she saw Taeho sitting beside her, and everything came flooding back. You are alive, she whispered. Because of you, he said. You saved me. She tried to smile, but she was still too weak. I could not let you die. Not after everything you did for me. He took her hand. It was small and cold in his rough, scarred fingers. You should not have done it, he said. You could have died. Then we would have died together, she said. That would not have been so bad. He did not know what to say. No one had ever valued his life that much. No one had ever been willing to die for him. He squeezed her hand gently. Thank you, he said, for giving me a reason to live. She closed her eyes, but she was still smiling. Outside the room, the galaxy was changing. The story of the human and the princess was spreading like wildfire. And somewhere, in the heart of the Velith Empire, a queen was listening. Queen Nari had heard everything, and she was coming. The day of the grand summit arrived. The great hall of the Eternal Star was filled with beings from every corner of the galaxy. There were tall, thin creatures with 6 eyes. They were short, wide beings made of living stone. There were species that floated in the air and species that crawled on many legs. The room was a sea of colors and shapes. Tejo stood 3 steps behind Princess Yura. He wore his formal black uniform, but beneath it, he carried 2 hidden knives and a small energy pistol. Old habits never died. Yura looked beautiful in her silver dress. It flowed around her like liquid moonlight. But Tejo could see her hands shaking slightly. She was nervous. "You will be fine," he said quietly. "Just breathe." She glanced back at him and gave a small nod. His words seemed to calm her a little. Queen Nari was not at the summit. She was dealing with problems on the Velith homeworld and could not attend. This left Yura as the representative of her entire empire. It was a heavy burden for someone so young. The ceremony began with speeches. One leader after another stood up and talked about peace, cooperation, and the future of the galaxy. Tejo did not listen to the words. His eyes moved constantly, scanning the room, watching for threats. Something felt wrong. He could not explain it. It was like a cold wind on the back of his neck. A warning that his body understood before his mind did. He looked at the Velith guards stationed around the room. There were 12 of them, tall and proud in their silver armor. They should have made him feel safe. But they did not. Their eyes were strange. Too calm. Too empty. Tejo's heart began to beat faster. He leaned forward and whispered to Yura, "Your Highness, I need you to stay close to me." She turned her head slightly. "What is wrong?" "I do not know yet, but something is not right." Before she could respond, the lights went out. For 3 seconds, the great hall was completely dark. People screamed. Bodies crashed into each other. Then the emergency lights came on, painting everything in red. That was when Tejo saw them. The Velith guards had drawn their weapons. But they were not protecting anyone. They were attacking. One guard drove his blade through a diplomat's chest. Another grabbed a small alien child and threw it aside like garbage. They moved with cold, mechanical precision. No hesitation. No mercy. They were not guards. They were assassins. Members of the Korath faction, a group of extremists who wanted to overthrow Queen Nari and destroy anyone who supported peace. The room exploded into chaos. People ran in every direction. Bodies fell to the floor. Blood spread across the white marble like spilled wine. Tejo grabbed Yura's arm and pulled her behind him. "Stay behind me," he ordered. "Do not move." 3 of the fake guards were coming toward them. Their eyes were fixed on Yura. She was their target. Kill the princess, and the Velith Empire would fall into civil war. Tejo pulled out his energy pistol and fired. The first shot hit one assassin in the head. He dropped instantly. The second shot missed as the other 2 dodged with inhuman speed. They were fast. Faster than any human could be. But Tejo was not trying to be faster. He was trying to be smarter. He grabbed a metal tray from a nearby table and threw it at the second assassin's face. The Velith raised his arm to block it, and in that moment, Tejo rushed forward. He drove his knife into the assassin's throat before he could react. The third assassin swung his blade at Tejo. He tried to dodge, but he was not quick enough. The blade cut deep into his left shoulder. Pain exploded through his body like fire. But Tejo did not stop. He could not stop. He grabbed the assassin's arm with his wounded hand and pulled him close. With his other hand, he drove his second knife into the assassin's eye. The Velith screamed and fell. 3 down. But there were still 9 more. Tejo turned back to Yura. She was pressed against the wall, her eyes wide with fear. Blood was spreading across his uniform. His left arm was almost useless now. "Tejo," she whispered. "You are hurt." "It does not matter," he said. "We need to move." But it was too late. 4 more assassins had surrounded them. They moved slowly now, like predators who knew their prey could not escape. One of them smiled. His teeth were sharp and white. "The weak princess," he said. "Your mother should have killed you at birth. You are a stain on our people." Tears ran down Yura's face. But she did not beg. She did not scream. She just stood there, trembling, waiting for death. Taiho stepped in front of her. "You want her," he said. "You go through me first." The assassin laughed. "A human? You are already half dead. What can you possibly do?" Taiho smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Let me show you." The first assassin attacked. Taiho ducked under his blade and drove his fist into the alien's stomach. Even through the armor, the blow was hard enough to make him stumble. The second assassin came from the right. Taiho grabbed his arm, twisted it, and broke it at the elbow. The sound of cracking bone echoed through the chaos. The third swung his blade at Taiho's head. He leaned back, feeling the wind as the blade passed an inch from his nose. He grabbed the assassin's wrist and drove his knee into his face. The fourth assassin was smarter. He did not rush in. Instead, he waited for an opening. He found it. His blade drove straight toward Yura's heart. Taiho saw it happening. Time seemed to slow down. He could not block it. He could not dodge it. There was only one thing he could do. He threw himself in front of her. The blade went through his chest. Pain. Unbelievable pain. Taiho felt like his entire body was on fire. The blade had gone in just below his heart. Blood poured from the wound like a river, but he did not fall. He grabbed the assassin's arm and held on with all his strength. The Velith tried to pull back, but Taiho would not let go. "You missed," Taiho whispered. Blood dripped from his lips. With his last bit of strength, he pulled the assassin close and drove his forehead into the alien's nose. The impact shattered bone. The assassin fell backward, unconscious. Taiho pulled the blade from his own chest. It hurt more coming out than going in. He swayed on his feet but did not fall. 3 assassins left. They stared at him with something new in their eyes. Fear. "What are you?" One of them whispered. Taiho raised the bloody blade. "I am her guard." And then he attacked. He should have been dead. Any normal person would have collapsed long ago. But Taiho was not normal. He was a soldier who had survived 100 battles. He was a man who had learned to fight through pain, through fear, through death itself. He killed the first assassin with a single thrust through the heart. He killed the second with a cut across the throat. The third tried to run. Taiho threw the blade. It spun through the air and buried itself in the assassin's back. 7 assassins dead. By his hand alone. The remaining 2 assassins looked at each other. Then they turned and ran. They had not expected this. They had not expected a human to be more dangerous than an army. Taiho stood alone in the center of the chaos. His body was covered in blood. Most of it was his own. His vision was blurring. His legs were shaking. But he turned back to Yura. She was still pressed against the wall, tears streaming down her face. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She shook her head. She could not speak. Taiho smiled. A real smile this time. Good. Then his legs gave out, and he collapsed to the floor. The last thing he heard before darkness took him was Yura's voice, screaming his name. The royal ship arrived at the Eternal Star like a storm approaching land. It was massive, 3 times the size of any other vessel in the fleet. Its hull was pure black, marked with silver symbols that glowed in the darkness of space. Everyone who saw it knew exactly what it meant. Queen Nari had come. The entire station went into high alert. Officers ran through the halls, giving orders, preparing for the arrival of the most powerful woman in the galaxy. Diplomats practiced their bows. Servants cleaned every surface until it shone like glass. But in the medical wing, Taeho felt nothing but cold dread. He had heard stories about Queen Nari. She was over 300 years old, ancient even by Velas standards. She had ruled the empire for 2 centuries. In that time, she had crushed 12 rebellions, won 4 wars, and executed countless enemies with her own hands. She was called many things. The Silver Storm, the Mother of Blades, the Eternal Queen, but most people simply called her the most dangerous being in the known universe. And now, she was coming for him. Yura was still recovering in her bed. She was stronger now, able to sit up and speak normally. But when she heard that her mother was coming, all the color drained from her face. "She is angry," Yura whispered. "I can feel it." Taeho stood by the window, watching the royal ship dock. "Is she coming to punish you?" "No, she is coming to punish you." He turned to look at her. "Me? Why?" Yura's eyes were filled with fear. "Because you touched me. Because you let me get hurt. Because you are a human, and you had the nerve to protect the Veleth princess." She grabbed his hand. "You have to run. You have to hide. If she finds you, she will kill you." Taeho looked at her small hand wrapped around his. Then he looked back at the window. "I'm not going to run," he said quietly. "You do not understand. My mother has killed people for less. She once executed a general because he spoke to her without permission. She does not see humans as people. To her, you are just an insect that crawled too close to her daughter." Taeho smiled. It was a sad smile, but also a peaceful one. "Then let her come. I did my duty. I protected you. If she wants to kill me for that, then I will die knowing I did the right thing." Yura stared at him. In all her life, she had never met anyone like him. Everyone else was afraid of her mother. Everyone ran, begged, or tried to bargain for their lives. But this human just stood there, calm and ready, waiting to face death without fear. "Why?" she asked. "Why are you not afraid?" He thought about it for a moment. "I have been afraid many times in my life. I was afraid when I went to war. I was afraid when my friends died in front of me. I was afraid every time I closed my eyes and saw their faces in my dreams." He paused. "But I am not afraid of dying for something that matters. And protecting you, that mattered." Tears formed in Yura's eyes. She had never felt so helpless. She wanted to save him, but she did not know how. Her mother was a force of nature. No one could stand against her. The door to the medical wing opened. 2 Veleth guards stepped inside. They were taller than Taeho, covered in black armor that made them look like shadows given form. Behind them came more guards, then officers, then servants, and then she appeared. Queen Nari walked into the room like she owned the very air around her. She was tall, over 6 feet, with silver hair that flowed behind her like a cape. Her face was sharp and beautiful, like a blade carved from ice. Her eyes were deep violet, the same color as Yura's, but there was no warmth in them. Only cold, calculating intelligence. She wore a dress of pure black, simple and elegant. But Taeho could see the weapons hidden beneath it. 2 swords at her hips, knives in her sleeves. This was not a woman who trusted anyone. The room fell silent. No one dared to breathe. Queen Nari walked slowly toward the bed where Yura lay. Her heels clicked on the floor like a clock counting down to an execution. She stopped at the edge of the bed and looked down at her daughter. "Yura," she said. Her voice was soft but carried through the room like thunder. "You almost died." Yura lowered her eyes. "Yes, mother. The assassins were Korath. My own people tried to kill you." There was a hint of anger in her voice now. "And where were your Veleth guards? Where were the warriors I assigned to protect you?" "They were the assassins, mother. The Korath replaced them." Queen Nari's jaw tightened. For a moment, something like pain flickered across her face. Then it was gone, replaced by cold fury. I see. She turned her head slowly, and her violet eyes found Taeho. And you are the human. Taeho stood at attention. Yes, Your Majesty. She studied him like a scientist studying a strange new specimen. Her eyes moved over his body, noting the bandages, the scars, the way he stood without trembling. My daughter tells me you killed 7 assassins, alone, with wounds that should have killed you 10 times over. I did what was necessary. Your Majesty, necessary. She repeated the word like she was tasting it. 7 of my people. Some of the best warriors in the Empire. And a human killed them all. She took a step closer to him. Do you expect me to thank you? Taeho met her eyes without looking away. No, Your Majesty. I do not expect anything. Good, because I do not thank insects. Yura struggled to sit up. Mother, please. He saved my life. Without him, I would be dead. Silence. The word cut through the air like a blade. Yura fell back, tears streaming down her face. Queen Nari circled Taeho slowly, like a predator examining its prey. Tell me, human, why did you protect my daughter? Was it for money? Fame? Did you think you could use her to gain power? No, Your Majesty. Then why? Taeho was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice steady and clear. Because she was lonely. Because everyone around her treated her like she was worthless. Because she deserved someone who would stand by her side, even if it meant dying. He paused. She is the kindest person I have ever met. And kind people should be protected. The room went still. No one had ever spoken to the queen like this. No one had ever dared to look her in the eye and speak of her daughter with such honesty. Queen Nari stopped circling. She stood directly in front of Taeho, so close that he could see the fine lines around her eyes, the only sign of her true age. You think my daughter is kind, she said softly. My people call her weak. They say she's a disgrace to the throne. They are wrong. And you think you know better than an entire empire? I know what I've seen. And I have seen a princess who nearly killed herself to save a human. That is not weakness. That is strength. For a long moment, Queen Nari said nothing. Her violet eyes searched his face, looking for lies, for fear. For any sign of deception, she found nothing but truth. Finally, she spoke. You are either very brave or very stupid. Human. She turned away from him and walked back toward the bed. Perhaps both. She looked down at Yura, who was still crying quietly. You gave him your life energy, Queen Nari said. The forbidden technique. You could have died. I know, Mother. And you did it anyway. For a human. Yura lifted her head. For the first time, there was fire in her eyes. Yes, I did. And I would do it again. Queen Nari stared at her daughter for a long time. Something changed in her face. The cold mask cracked, just for a moment, and beneath it was something unexpected. Pride. So, the queen said quietly, my gentle daughter found her courage after all. She turned and walked toward the door. Every step was measured, precise, controlled. At the doorway, she stopped. Human, she said without turning around. You will come with me. We have much to discuss. She walked out. Her guards followed. Taeho looked at Yura one last time. She was still crying, but there was hope in her eyes now. Go, she whispered. And please, come back. He nodded once. Then he followed the queen into the unknown.